conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of Soundbites on Wisp Sports Radio. Soundbites is a bi-weekly podcast providing you with practical information on holistic nutrition. On each episode, we feature a new topic to empower you to make healthier choices so you can improve your overall health, performance, and prevent disease. Welcome to episode 9 with your host, MC. Today I'm answering the following question. How much protein do I need as an athlete? Now, this is an amazing question because as athletes, protein is extremely important. I wouldn't say it's the most important macronutrient because they are all important, but I do see this question pop out a lot. So today I want to take some time to not only talk about how much protein you need, but also explain to you a little bit what is the function of protein, how much is recommended, whether you have a sedentary lifestyle, whether you are an athlete, or if you're an athlete that's trying to build muscle. I'm also going to talk about what can happen if you're exceeding that protein intake, which a lot of people do. And lastly, I'm going to give you an example of what is it that you can eat depending on your body weight and how it looks like when they tell you this is how many grams you should be eating, just so that you get an idea of how much protein you need on a daily basis. Now, the first thing is the function of protein. When you eat protein, it gets broken down into amino acids. Now, as athletes, this is extremely important. Why? Because amino acids are used for cellular repair. So every time you do a workout, especially an intense workout, your muscles break down. In order for your muscles to recover, to be strong, become stronger, they need to be repaired. And amino acids are used for that function. Protein is also important for many other metabolic reactions, but for the purpose of this episode, we're going to focus on that repair, which is extremely important, especially for athletes, since you work out every single day. So you want to make sure that if you have a hard training session the next day, you are ready to go again. And for that, your muscles need to be fully recovered. So that's one of the main functions of proteins that you should really understand. Now, how much is recommended? For someone who is sedentary, the daily recommendation is 36 grams per pound of body weight. Now, if you are an athlete, you need around 55 grams per pound of body weight. I've seen a lot of people eat up to 2 grams per pound of body weight. Now, here's the thing. It has been shown that taking that much protein doesn't really seem to benefit, and it can actually cause health problems. And what type of health problems? The first one is going to be the buildup of toxicity in the body, which is caused by ammonia not longer being converted into that compound that can actually cause the cellular repair. Now, a lot of organs are going to be affected by these, mostly the kidneys. So this is something to keep in mind. And another thing that's actually extremely important is that excessive protein can lead to dehydration. And this is actually sort of connected to that toxicity that's being built up in the body. But just know that when you're overdoing protein, you can suffer also from dehydration. Now, let's go to the most important part, I think, and that is for you to understand how you can use these numbers so you can create your own plan, you can create your own meals, and you have a better understanding on how it looks like when you actually apply it and what foods you can eat. And I will also make sure to add a link to give you some example of foods that are high in protein so that you get more ideas, because I do also see that a lot of people are like, where do I get my protein from? So no worry, I will answer that question today. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have someone who weighs 140 pounds. So when I say that you need 55 grams per pound of body weight, what you will do is simply multiply your weight in pounds by 55. So for someone who's 140 pounds, they would need around 77 grams if they're not looking to build. Now, what does that look on a daily meal? So let's say you wake up and you have a smoothie. You cannot obviously remember that protein is not the only macronutrient. We also have carbohydrates and fat, which you have to make sure you are also including in your daily diet. Now, for the purpose of this episode, we're mostly focusing on protein, but don't think that protein is the only thing that you have to eat. You also have to make sure you are eating carbohydrates and fats, which I will talk about on other episodes. Now, let's say going back to how a day of meals would look like. You wake up, you have a smoothie, you can add whatever fruit you want, make sure you're adding the fat. But for the protein, you can simply use 1 scoop of protein powder. And that's it, okay? You don't want to eat more protein than that. Now, if you're not into protein powders, you can eat an egg instead, or maybe 2 eggs. I like to use an egg and then like the whole egg and then add some egg whites. That way I have the fat, the protein, and then I get a little extra protein from the egg whites. Now for lunch, let's say you're going to have a salad, just by adding a can of sardines, a can of tuna. If you didn't have eggs in the morning, you can have eggs, and that's it. Just 1 can, and that's all you need. That's all the protein that you need. Now for dinner, let's say you have, your carbohydrates, you have some rice, some quinoa, whatever you want to eat for carbohydrates. And you will need about, for a 140-pound person, you would need about 3 to 4 ounces of the protein of choice, which can be chicken, fish, beef, lots of legumes, vegetables, seeds also have protein. But the measurements look a little bit different for those. But just also realize that not only animal sources have protein, which you also have to take into consideration, because if you're eating other things, you're also getting protein from your, like I said, your vegetables, seeds, legumes, and all that stuff that you're eating. I wouldn't get so concerned about, like now I have to count how many seeds I'm eating and nuts and all of that. But just know that that's pretty much the protein that you would need on a daily basis. Now, if you want to build muscle, the recommendation is 68 grams per pound of body weight, which would be about 95 grams. Now, in order to get those 95 grams, if you're a 140-pound person, now if you're 30, just remember to multiply it by 130, so you get your an accurate number. Now, when you're trying to build muscle, by simply adding a cup of yogurt to your afternoon snack, you get your protein needs. So just know that it's actually not that difficult and you actually don't need that much protein. Now, if you are experiencing some of the symptoms of like dehydration, or you start to have kidney problems and all of that, just make sure you're watching your protein intake, because as you can see, it's so easy to overdo it. That's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, definitely send me a message, send me an email, and just take away this message. Eat as much protein as your body needs for repair and recovery. Eat a little bit more if you want to build muscle, and make sure you are also eating your carbohydrates, your fats, and make sure you are fueling, especially for those intense workouts.
Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
I hope you found this helpful, and if you would like more information, please visit my website provided on the show notes. You can also email us info@wispsports.com with any questions you may have about nutrition. There will also be links in the show notes accompanying this episode at wispsports.com. Just go to listen and click on sound bites, and while you're there, you can also find more conversations from the world of women's sport. And please subscribe to Wisp Sports Radio on your favorite podcast player. I also wanted to let you know that Wisp Sports is running a Patreon campaign which is sort of like a Kickstarter campaign for podcasters. WISP is doing a lot to draw more attention to women's sports, not just triathlon, ski racing, but also sports like rugby, hockey, sailing, cycling, and more. There will be a link to the campaign in the show notes, and I hope you go check out the campaign and become a supporter so we can continue promoting women in sport. You can also post your comments and share on social media. Just look for Maricarmen Farias and at WISP Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have an amazing day.